Okay, give me just one moment. Okay, found it. So I have so many notes on that page. Okay, we're going to grab another piece of craft and our paper cutter. We're going to trim a piece of paper that is 8 3/4 tall. So 8 3/4, and it's going to be by 5. Now this piece is going to sit right here, and it's going to cover up our spine, okay? This will all be covered by decorative paper, but we want a nice base for our hinge system to sit on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take glue, and I'm going to glue this down here. And I am going to use my foam brush again because I want this to have glue everywhere. So the easiest way to do that, and I learned this from Trisha over at Club Scrap, if you take your paper and you kind of curve it into your hand like this, it kind of gives it some stability to brush all your glue around. Okay, so I've got glue everywhere and on my fingers. And I'm just going to center this over my spine, centering it top to bottom and then over the edges of the spine. So about right there. Our hinge system is going to be the exact vertical measurement of this piece. Okay, now I'm going to burnish it really good. I want to make sure this sticks down. So take your bone folder and just make sure this is burnished down really well, especially on all the edges. And then while the paper is soft from it being covered in glue, take the edge of your bone folder and find your gap and run your bone folder into that gap. Gently. You don't want to tear your paper. And now, while it's still soft, go ahead and fold that in gently. There. Now we have our cover, and we're ready to work on our hinges. So while this is folded like this, I'm going to set it aside to dry. Okay. For our hinge system, let me put my glue thing here. We're going to do a hinge system called Stack the Deck, okay? And I'm going to show you how this works. We're going to need 3 pieces of paper. They're each going to measure 8 3/4 inches tall, which I have. This one's the one I cut off from my spine cover. And our first one is going to be, let me see what this measures. I need one that's 3 3/8. The largest one is 3 3/8, and this one will just fit. So 1, 2, 3/8. I'm sorry, but this hinge system is going to work in 8ths, so make sure you know where your 8ths marks are on your paper cutter. So we need one that is 3 3/8 by 8 3/4. So I'm going to cut this piece to 8 3/4. And then I need another piece that is 2 5/8. And then I need one that is 1 7/8. Okay. So 8 3/4 inches tall for each. This one's 1 7/8 wide. This one is 2 5/8 wide. And this one is 3 3/8 wide. Now we're going to take our scoreboard again. And what we're going to do is we're going to score in from each side 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to score it 3/4 of an inch. My paper's a little too tall, so I'm just going to move it up. And then I'm going to turn it around on the other side and score at 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and I'm going to do that to each piece, scoring at 3/4 of an inch in from each edge. Turn this around, 3/4 of an inch. And then the last piece at 3/4 of an inch. So what this does is these pieces, if you've never seen this method, let's fold on our score lines and it'll be easier to explain. So go through and fold each of your score lines. These 3/4 inch pieces that we scored are going to end up being our hinges. Because they're paper bags and they're kind of bulky, and then we've got stuff in the pockets and they're kind of tall, and our 6x6 mini album hinges were only 1/2 inch. But we want a taller hinge because they're kind of bulky pages. So what this is going to do is, with these folded and our hinges standing up, and this is why it's called stack the deck, okay? These are going to stack inside of each other and create our 6 hinges, just like that, okay? So what we want to do, I'm going to lay these flat. So this is our base piece that's going to sit inside our book. So we're going to glue everything to it. So with it laying flat, I'm going to use my art glitter glue because it grabs really fast. On the bottom of the 2 5/8 inch scored piece, I'm going to run glue all over the bottom of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this. I'm going to center this scored area with this scored area, lining up the top and bottom edge. So I'm going to turn it sideways because it's easier for me to see. And if you're off a little bit, it's not a big deal. So you just center those up and glue them down. I've got glue everywhere. And I'm going to burnish that down with my bone folder. Okay. And I'm going to fold these up, make sure I haven't glued them down. Okay. So there's 4 of our hinges. And so now we'll do the same with this piece here. Our last little tiny piece. We'll put glue on the bottom. And then we're just going to center this right here. And then we're going to burnish that down. Wipe off any excess glue and stand it up so that, make sure you haven't, see how I got glue there? I don't want to glue my hinge down. So I'm just going to wipe that off. Okay, and that's our hinge system. Some people find this a lot easier. Sometimes either method works for me. The only thing that I worry about with this one for my heavier mini albums is that the hinge is only one layer of paper. So with our 6x6 mini album, when we scored it and glued those 1/2" pieces together, we ended up with a nice strong 2-layer hinge. Okay. So now, you guessed it, we're going to glue this now into our book. Straighten my page out here. Straighten my cover out, I mean. And this gets centered. Okay, our little piece that we laid down to cover our spine is the exact measurement vertically of our hinge system. So you want to just line up the edges there, but you want to center it on the spine. Okay, so I'm just going to flip this over and I'm going to put glue all over the back. We don't want this going anywhere, so don't be stingy with the glue. Then I'm going to match up the edges to our piece that we laid down to cover our spine. And then I'm going to center between my gussets. Our 1/8" gussets. So that looks good. And now I'm just going to press down. And just wipe any excess glue away. One thing I like about the art glitter glue is it dries clear. So I'm just going to burnish this down. Just like that. And then I'm going to stand up my hinges. And I'm going to work those hinges again. And there we go. So our hinges are in. And what I should have done beforehand was clip them, but that's okay. We can do it. So our paper bag pages, close my glue for now. So our pages for our bag, I want you to notice, because they're a bag, right here, you cannot lay it directly onto your hinge. Do you see how this kind of cuts in right here? It's not flat against the bottom. So what we need to do is we need to angle cut the bottom of our hinges so that our bag will fit on them, okay? And it's going to go at a pretty sharp angle, so don't be too surprised. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in like this, about like that. Okay, that's a pretty sharp angle. We're not just clipping off a corner. And now what I'm going to do is test my bag to see if it'll fit onto it before I cut another one. Okay, and that sits on there really nicely, so I know that that's a good angle, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the other 5 hinges, and I'm just going to snip off at that same angle. So now we know our pages will fit. And the last one. And now we're going to add these pages in just like we did on our 6x6 mini album. We're just going to lay glue on each side of the hinge. And then we're going to lay our bag on there and glue it down. Now, I just want to remind you, Okay. If you set your page all the way down to where it touches, and you've set it completely all the way down, your page will not lie flat when you open your book, okay? It needs a little space. So don't push your page all the way to that bottom score line. Give it like even just a 1/16 of an inch. See the difference? And it will lay nice and flat for you, okay? So again, glue both sides of the hinge, open up your bag, and lay your pages in, and I'll meet you right back here once I get my pages in. Sorry guys, I'm gonna actually, excuse me, let you see me do one. I should have let you see me do one. So I'm going to turn her stack of pages over because she's got them in the order she wants to appear in the book. So I'm actually going to take her last page here. I'm going to put glue on this side of the hinge about halfway down the hinge, and the other side about halfway down. You don't need to go all the way down. I'm going to open up and lay this onto the hinge, centering it in the book. I'm not going all the way to the score line. I'm leaving, well, maybe 1/16 of an inch. And then I'm going to press and let that glue grab on both sides. Okay. And there you go. That's our first page in. Okay. So I'll meet you back here when I've got the last page in. Okay, I've got all of her pages in her book, and here's what they look like. So we've got all 6 pages in. Now, this Stack the Deck was designed, these measurements, to give you, in our 6x6 mini album, we had a 1/4 of an inch space in between. There's the possibility for lots of stuff in this album. So the space, there's a nice big 3/8 inch space in between your pages here. So you can bulk this up. As you can see, she's got pearls here, and she's already got some dimensional stuff going on in here on her pages. And as you can see, we've got a lot of room. So this is really nice because you can really bulk this album up with all kinds of stuff. Okay, so that's where we're going to leave off today. Tomorrow, we're going to finish this, and what we're going to do is we're going to work on the inside covers. We're going to do the waterfall here, and we're going to cover our cover and our spine. Okay, so I will meet you back here tomorrow so we can finish this album up. As always, have a wonderful day, and God bless. I'll see you in the next video.